Well, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm 95 years old now, and I've made my share of mistakes, but I've also learned a few things along the way. And one of the things I've learned is that knowing what not to buy is sometimes more important than knowing what to buy. See, when I was young, I thought the secret to wealth was finding the next great investment, the next Coca-Cola, the next American Express. And sure, that's part of it. But the real secret, well, it's avoiding the traps, the things that look good on the surface but drain your wallet and your peace of mind. So today I want to talk to you about 10 things I wouldn't spend my money on in 2026. Not because I'm cheap, though Charlie used to joke about that, but because I've seen too many people waste their resources on things that don't compound, don't grow, and don't bring any real happiness. And you know what? That's the funny thing about money. We think having more of it will solve our problems, but often it's how we spend it that determines whether we're truly wealthy or just well playing rich. So let me share these thoughts with you. Not as rules, but as lessons I've picked up over 9 decades of watching people, including myself, make both wise and foolish choices. The first thing I'd avoid, well, it's the newest smartphone every single year. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't have a phone. I have one myself. It's probably 5 or 6 years old, maybe older. I honestly can't remember. But it makes calls, sends those text messages, and that's about all I need. See, here's what happens. Every year these companies, Apple, Samsung, whoever, they release a new model, and people line up, sometimes literally to get the latest version. But what's really changed? The camera's a little better. The screen's a little bigger. I'd say if your current phone works, keep it. Because the funny thing is, that new phone isn't going to make you happier, it's not going to make you more productive, and it certainly isn't going to make you wealthier. You know what will? Taking that $1,000 you were going to spend on a new phone and investing it instead. Let it compound for 10, 20, 30 years, and suddenly that phone costs you not $1,000, but $10,000, maybe more. That's the real cost of these purchases, not what you spend, but what you don't invest. Warren Buffett once said, well, I said it, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And with these annual phone upgrades, you're paying a high price for very little value. The second thing, well, luxury cars, especially new ones. I drive a Cadillac, have for years. And you know what? People are always surprised by that. They think, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, and he drives a regular car. But that's exactly the point. See, a car is a depreciating asset. The moment you drive it off the lot, it loses value. 10%, 20%, sometimes more. It's one of the worst investments you can make. Now, I'm not saying don't have a car, you need transportation. But there's a difference between buying a reliable car that gets you from point A to point B and buying a status symbol. Because that's what luxury cars are, really. They're status symbols. You're not buying transportation, you're buying what other people think of you. And that's a very expensive game to play. I'd rather take that $70, $80, $100,000 and put it to work. Let it earn money for me instead of draining money from me in insurance, maintenance, and depreciation. You know, there's an old saying, if you want to look rich, buy things. If you want to be rich, invest. And I've found that to be pretty accurate. Third on my list, expensive weddings. Now, this one might be controversial. Don't get me wrong. Marriage is wonderful. I was married to my wife Susie for 52 years, and those were the best years of my life. But the wedding itself, that's just one day. I see young couples today spending $50,000, $100,000, sometimes more on a wedding. And I think that's a down payment on a house. That's seed money for a business. That's the start of something that could compound for decades. See, the wedding industry has convinced us that if we don't have this perfect Instagram-worthy event, somehow our marriage isn't valid. But that's nonsense. The success of a marriage has nothing to do with how much you spent on the wedding. Some of the happiest couples I know got married in a courthouse or in their backyard. They spent $1,000, maybe less, and they've been together for 40, 50 years. And some of the most expensive weddings I've seen, well, those marriages didn't last through the honeymoon. So my advice, keep it simple. Spend money on the marriage, not the wedding. Invest in experiences together, in building a life together, not in one day that'll be over before you know it. Number 4, designer clothes and accessories. Now, I wear a suit most days, have for 70 years, but it's not an expensive suit. It's comfortable, it looks professional, and it does the job. I don't need a $5,000 suit to feel good about myself, but I see people, especially young people, spending their entire paycheck on designer handbags, shoes, watches, things with logos on them, so everyone knows how much they spent. And I think, what are you really buying? You're not buying quality. These days you can get quality for a fraction of the price. You're buying the label, the status, the appearance of wealth. But here's the thing about appearing wealthy. It's exhausting. Because once you start playing that game, you have to keep playing it. You need the new season's collection, the limited edition, the next big thing. And all the while, you're not actually building wealth, you're spending it to look like you have it. I learned a long time ago that truly wealthy don't need to advertise it. They know what they have, and they don't need validation from strangers. So skip the designer labels. Buy quality when it makes sense, but don't pay for a logo. Your bank account will thank you. The 5th thing I'd avoid, subscription services you don't use. Now this might seem small, but it adds up. See, companies have gotten very clever. Instead of charging you once, they charge you every month. $10 here, $15 there. And before you know it, you're spending hundreds of dollars a month on things you barely use. Streaming services, gym memberships, meal kits, magazine subscriptions. All of it just draining away. And the funny thing is, most people don't even notice. It's automatic. It comes out of your account and you forget about it. But over a year, that's thousands of dollars. I'd say sit down once a quarter and look at your subscriptions. Really look at them. Ask yourself, am I using this? Is it adding value to my life? And if the answer is no, cancel it. Because those small amounts, they compound too, just in the wrong direction. Number 6, the latest tech gadgets. Now, I'm not a tech guy, never have been. I leave that to Bill Gates. But I see people spending thousands of dollars on smartwatches, tablets, VR headsets, drones, all these things that promise to make life better. And maybe they do, for a little while. But then the novelty wears off and they're sitting in a drawer collecting dust. See, the tech industry thrives on planned obsolescence. They want you to buy the new version every year. They want you to feel like you're missing out if you don't have the latest gadget. But you're not missing out. You're just saving money. I'd rather invest in things that last, things that hold their value, or better yet, increase in value over time. A good book, a quality tool, a solid investment, not something that'll be outdated in 6 months. Seventh, expensive coffee every day. Now, I know this is a classic example, and people get tired of hearing it. Oh, skip the latte and you'll be a millionaire. But there's truth in it. Not because one coffee is going to break you, but because, well, it represents something bigger. It's about the small daily habits that drain your wealth without you noticing. $5 a day doesn't sound like much. But over a year, that's nearly $2,000. Over 10 years, $20,000. And if you invested that instead at a reasonable return, you're looking at $40,000, $50,000 or more. That's real money. That's retirement money. So I'm not saying never have coffee. Make it at home. Enjoy it. But don't let convenience drain your future. Number 8, well, extended warranties on everything. This one makes me chuckle because companies have figured out how to make money twice. They sell you something and then they sell you insurance on the thing they just sold you. And most of the time, you never use it. See, extended warranties are profitable for companies because they know most products won't break during the warranty period. They've done the math. They know the odds. And if something does break, often it costs less to repair or replace it yourself than what you paid for the warranty. So you're paying for peace of mind that, you probably don't need. My rule, if you can afford to replace it, don't insure it. Save your money for things that matter. The 9th thing, well, keeping up with trends. This is a big one. Because trends, they're designed to make you feel like you're missing out. Fashion trends, home decor trends, lifestyle trends. All of it changes every few months. And if you're trying to keep up, you'll go broke. See, the wealthy don't follow trends, they set them, or they ignore them entirely. They buy what they like, what works for them, and they keep it for years. I've worn the same style of suit for decades. My house? I've lived in it since 1958. I didn't buy it because it was trendy. I bought it because it was a good house, and it still is. And you know what? I'm happier for it, because I'm not constantly chasing the next thing. I'm content with what I have. And that's the secret, really. Contentment. It's free, and it's worth more than any trend. And finally, number 10. Anything that promises to get you rich quick. This is the big one, because people want to believe there's a shortcut, a secret, a way to skip the hard work and just arrive at wealth. But it doesn't exist. Not really. I've been investing for over 80 years now, and I can tell you wealth is built slowly. One good decision at a time, one investment at a time, $1 saved and compounded over years and decades. There's no magic formula, no cryptocurrency that's going to 100x overnight, no penny stock that's about to explode. Those are fairy tales, sold by people who want to take your money. The real path to wealth? It's boring, it's patient, it's disciplined, it's buying quality companies and holding them, it's living below your means, it's avoiding debt, it's letting time do the work. See, compounding is the most powerful force in finance, but it requires time, and most people aren't willing to wait. They want results now. They want to see their money double in a year, but that's not how it works. I always say the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient, and I've tried to be patient my whole life. So, those are my 10 things. 10 things I wouldn't spend money on in 2026. Not because I'm frugal, though I've been called worse, but because I've learned that every dollar you spend is a dollar you can't invest. And investing? Well, that's how you build real wealth. Now, I know some people will hear this and think, Warren, you're rich. Of course you can say these things. But that's backwards. I'm not rich because I avoided these things. I avoided these things because I wanted to be rich. See, wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep and how you let it grow. The people I know who make $1 million a year and spend $2 million, they're not wealthy. They're stressed. But the people who make $50,000 and save $10,000 and invest it wisely, they're building something. They're on their way. And that's what I want for you. I want you to avoid the traps, the shiny objects, the things that look good but don't add real value to your life. Because here's the truth, and this is something I've learned over 95 years. Happiness doesn't come from what you buy. It comes from security, from freedom, from knowing you have enough and you don't need to chase more. I've spent most of my life accumulating wealth, but you know what I treasure most? My relationships, my time, my ability to do what I want when I want without worrying about money. That's real wealth. And it doesn't come from buying the latest iPhone or the fanciest car or the biggest wedding. It comes from making smart choices, patient choices, choices that compound over time. So, if you take one thing away from this conversation, let it be this. Every dollar is a seed. You can consume it today, or you can plant it and watch it grow. Most people consume. They buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't like. And then they wonder why they're not getting ahead. But you? I hope you choose differently. I hope you plant those seeds. I hope you give them time to grow. Because 30 years from now, you'll look back and realize those small decisions you made today, they mattered, they compounded, and you'll be glad you made them. You know, I think about legacy a lot these days at 95. Well, you start to think about what you're leaving behind. And for me, it's not the money. The money will go to charity to people who need it more than I ever did. No, what I hope to leave behind are lessons, ideas, ways of thinking about money and life that might help someone else avoid the mistakes I made, because I made plenty. I've bought things I didn't need. I've chased opportunities I should have ignored. I've spent money in ways that weren't the best use of resources, but I learned and I changed. And slowly over decades, I built something, not just wealth, but wisdom. And if I can share even a fraction of that with you, well, then these 95 years were worth it. So remember, it's not about deprivation. It's not about living like a miser. It's about making intentional choices, choices that align with your values, with your goals, with the life you want to build. And sometimes that means saying no. No to the new phone, no to the fancy car, no to the expensive wedding. Not because you can't afford it, but because you can afford something better. You can afford freedom. You can afford security. You can afford time. And those things, they're priceless. Well, I think that's about all I have to say. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you'll think about these ideas and maybe, just maybe, make a few different choices going forward. Because the truth is, building wealth isn't complicated. It's just not easy. It requires discipline, patience, the ability to delay gratification. But if you can do those things, you'll be amazed at what's possible. So go out there, live below your means, invest the difference, and let time do the rest. And 30 years from now, when you're sitting where I am, you'll smile, because you'll realize it worked. It really worked. Thank you for listening. And remember, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Everything else is just details. Take care.